For the first time in more than 2 years, Seekers of Empyrean is not my current work in progress.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scherer, and I am just another struggling writer. It is time, the last episode of Crunch Diaries. Today is Sunday, July 26th at not quite 11 p.m. and I have 5 days until my deadline. If you haven't watched my last vlog, first of all, I highly recommend you do so, just for continuity purposes. But if you're just now popping in, here's the skinny. I have to hand over this manuscript on August 1st for a paid critique. I have already moved this deadline once, and since this is a person who relies on these paid critiques as their income, I am not really willing to do that again. I put myself in this position with procrastination as well as some mental health stuff, but I want to be able to be someone who can meet deadlines, and so I am doing everything in my power now to make that happen. Unfortunately, I do need to write 7 more chapters with a tentative word count goal of 23,000 more words in 5 days. Now, before you cry out that that seems impossible, especially since I do in fact have a full-time job that isn't writing, let me apprise you of some reasons for optimism, at least the reasons for optimism that I have latched onto. Number 1, I have mentioned this in I think all my previous vlogs, but it bears repeating. The 3 climax chapters are basically staying the same as from draft 1. I will need to do some minor editing just to update the context for some of the things that have changed earlier in the draft, but the fight scene that occurs in the climax, as well as like all the major reveals, all of it staying identical. That plus the epilogue, which is not very long, equals about 10,000 words that I can just copy in and take a little bit of time editing. It's not drafting new words. That's the biggest thing. The second thing is that I have just done a little bit of an analysis on these last couple of chapters, and I have determined that those 3 chapters are not the only places where I can copy from draft 1. I just started chapter 25, and I believe I can copy about 1,500 words there. Chapter 26, not as much, only about 1,000 or about 1/3 of the original draft. Chapter 27, maybe about half, maybe about 1,200, and then the rest is going to be a brand new scene that has never been written before. 28, 29, and 30 will be the copied chapters of the climax, and then the denouement chapter, chapter 31, is basically going to be all new. I just don't think there's enough in the original that won't need to be updated. And then the epilogue is staying identical. That's one of my favorite things that I have ever written, and I am not really looking to change that at all. All told, if you math it out, I believe that I really only need to draft 10,000 new words between now and Friday. Yes, I do need to edit through all of these chapters. I haven't even edited through the fight scene chapters that I wrote this weekend yet, but that only takes about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So I think I can accomplish it, especially when you consider that I don't have my kids this entire week. They are spending the week with their dad. So I will be able to just come home and get straight to work, not worry really about making dinner or any of that stuff. My partner, God love him, bless him to the moon and back, knows that I am severely crunching and is supporting me in every way. And we are looking forward to being able to hang out after this is all said and done. Here's kind of my plan for the next 5 days. Tomorrow, I would like to finish chapter 25, which I did start. I've got about 400 words, and complete chapter 26, which again, I'll be able to copy about 1,000 words and then rewrite. So about 2,500 to 3,000 words for tomorrow. Tuesday, I would like to do chapter 27, just because I'm going to have to write a brand new scene that has never existed before. So that's going to take a little bit more brain effort. Wednesday, I would like to make an editing day. I would like to edit through everything up through the climax, because at that point I will be able to copy in chapters 28, 29, and 30, which are the big chunks of words that I will not need to edit that much. So Wednesday, I would like to edit chapters 22 through 30. That will leave Thursday for writing the denouement. And then Friday, if all goes according to plan, which I will be able to just do a quick read through of the entire manuscript and finalize it for Brielle. That's the hope anyway. But again, there are so many reasons to be optimistic. This last chapter that I wrote, chapter 24, I spent about an hour and a half almost just kind of working through it in my head, trying to figure out what talking points needed to be hit. This is the aftermath of the fight scene, and in what order, because that was also very important, and how to arrive at the ending of the scene, which was already set in stone. And then once I actually sat down and got into that part of the scene, it just flew out of me. I was sprinting with Donna, who, shout out, thank you so much again for hopping on a call with me and helping me out. And I think I wrote something like 1,400 words in 45 minutes, which for me is a lot. I am hopeful that I can take a little bit of time during my work day this week, maybe on my lunch, to do something similar for each of the new scenes and chapters that I will have to write this week. Now, because not everything can be perfect, I have 2 work-related caveats / obstacles that I will have to contend with. Number 1 is I have 3 more job interviews that I am conducting in search of some admin and receptionist help tomorrow. I flew through them pretty fast on Friday, so I'm hopeful that won't take too much of my mental energy. I already know they're going to take hours of my time, but that's fine. The other point is that it is the end of the month, which, if you've been here long enough, you know so well by now that the end of the month is my busiest time at work. It is the only time I have a firm deadline on my tasks and duties. And so as things tend to pile up towards the end of the month, I do get a little bit stressed and a little bit Swiss cheesy in the brain. If I wanted it any different, I should have asked for a deadline in the middle of the month and not right at the beginning of a new one. We'll know that for next time. That's kind of my plan, my reasons for optimism, and the obstacles I will face for this week. It is now 11 o'clock. I am going to start winding down for bed. I wrote close to 4,500 words today. Maybe 4,200 just today, in addition to a paper that I had to write for school. And so I know that I can't push myself any further tonight. As much as I would like to continue the momentum, I got to a point in chapter, where I leave off, 25, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I have ideas and I know how the scene is going to be conducted. I couldn't make more words come out. I just couldn't. So I am going to start getting ready for bed, and we will start this final week of crunch, and not even a full week, 5 days, tomorrow.
Don't end up together, I'm gonna lose my mind. And if this life really does go on forever, I know I choose you every time. You say you're the only one for me, yeah. So if you love me, then tell me.
Hello, good morning. It is now Tuesday morning, and forgive me, I have like a crazy massive headache right now, so if I seem foggy, it's because I am. Yesterday was kind of a weird day. I had 3 interviews scheduled, and then before my first one, I got a phone call from someone I had left a message for, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I have time. you can come in too. So I ended up having 4 interviews, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Because of that, I just never really got going on my like routine. I did do parts of it. I did do my tarot draw, and I did do like my daily like task list that I do. I just didn't feel like I was sticking to it very well, or like paying attention to it like I normally do. Normally it keeps me on track and is like good reminder when I have free time, like, okay, which one of these tasks should I do next? I wasn't really doing that. And then I also noticed like at the end of the day that I didn't put a bunch of stuff on there that I normally would have. And I think it's just because I had all those meetings, and like, I don't know, I'm the kind of like anxious person where when I have a meeting, I don't feel like I can do anything before it, because like I'm just so busy like mentally preparing for it, and so I can't start anything else because then they'll anyway. So and I had 4 of those, so it was like my whole day was like start and stop and start and stop. And then I also realized on my drive into work yesterday that the video that I will post today, so it'll be last week for you guys watching this right now, time travel, I wanted to put in some clips of some of my old videos, and that meant that I needed to like rewatch those old videos to figure out which clips I wanted to put in. And so even when I wasn't meeting with people, I had my own videos on in the background and taking notes on like the clips that I wanted to insert, while also trying to like get actual day job stuff done, because guess what, it's month end, and so I don't have a lot of wiggle room with my actual job stuff. Anyway, it just ended up being a weird day, and sum total of that meant that I did not think about writing at all during the day. And so I got home and I hadn't really thought through how I wanted to continue with chapter 25. So I was kind of coming into it like cold. But then I also had to like finish the edits on that 3-year anniversary video, which ended up taking like 2 hours. And I am really glad that I rewatched the videos for the clips that I wanted, because it just took forever. And it would have taken like 4 times as long if I had waited. So I'm glad that I did do that eventually. Anyways, it took me like 2 hours to finish editing that video. So I ended up sitting down to write at around 8. Even before I sat down, I knew I was pretty tired, low on energy. My eyes felt heavy, and getting up underneath my heated blanket certainly did not help. But I also knew that my back was really, really hurting. Like I was not able to go and sit in a desk chair for 4 more hours. So I was in my recliner with my heated blanket. I did resist the siren call of turning on like authortube, which I sometimes do. I certainly did that over the weekend. I just turned on some ambient music, and I did end up working, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle. Now, I say that I did get like 2,700 words in 2.5 hours. Granted, at least half of those were copied. I did end up copying the second part of chapter 25, which is its own like mini scene, like a sequel, only about 700 words. And then the first part of chapter 26 that I know I want to keep, which is also about 700 words. So I actually only drafted about 1,300 new words. So the number looks impressive, but the actual progress did not feel that impressive, especially considering not only did I not do chapters 25 and 26 like I had hoped, I didn't even technically finish chapter 25. That scene it was kind of a weird process, because like I said, I was feeling like tapped out mentally. And in fact, when I first sat down, I was feeling tired and I was under my blanket. I was like, I could just take a little nap. There's nothing stopping me from just taking a little nap. And then my like rational brain was like, no, you have 5 days. This isn't like, oh, I'll just make up the words later this week. No, there's no more making up words. There's this now or never. Anyway, so I'm glad that I at least like was able to overcome that. Like I made that will save kind of thing, but yeah, it was a struggle. So anyway, so I was just kind of like having trouble like stringing words together. And so I would like lay back and close my eyes, and I would think of a line, but it wouldn't be the next line. And so I would just enter, I would just tab a few lines down and then just write the sentence that I was thinking of. So that meant that at one point I had like 6 unconnected lines vaguely in the correct order, and I just needed to fill in the gaps. And then I would go back to like the very last line that was all contiguous and then add a paragraph, And then I would be like, oh, that connects to this other line. And then I would wipe out the blank spaces in between. And anyway, it was a lot of that kind of like, I was just seizing on what like ideas my brain was spitting out, regardless of whether or not it was in order, which I don't usually do. I'm usually very much like a chronological kind of writer. Anyway, so I got through the vast majority of chapter 25. I need like maybe 300 more words. I just need to close it out. As you guys may remember, some of these chapter endings have been a little bit of a struggle. This isn't even a chapter ending, it's just a scene ending, but it is kind of a punchy moment. But that's not even the reason I'm struggling. The reason I'm struggling is, anyway, you don't need to know, spoilers. All of that to say, I did write. And technically, I got quite a bit done. 2,700 words, that's pretty good, especially for 2.5 hours. Copying notwithstanding, my hands are so dry. I need to put lotion on. But it wasn't the amount of words that I need. It wasn't the amount of work I wanted to get done. Today is definitely, obviously, to finish chapter 25. I just need to get my notebook out and think about what I'm going to do. And then I need to bullet point out chapter 26. It's a big conversation between Arceli and her grandmother, who like, they haven't seen each other since the beginning of the book when they had this big fight. And so they're kind of like hashing things out. And so I just need to like write out the talking points. You know, I've done this before in other big reveals and other big conversation scenes where it's just like, I need to write out the talking points and figure out which order they go in and how they will all get, you know, connect together and how they will all serve the larger purpose and how they will lead into chapter 27. And then I need to write it. Can I do the end of chapter 25, or that last little bit I need, 2/3 of chapter 26 and half of chapter 27 in one day? I don't know. Sounds like a lot, but I'm gonna try. I have to try. I have no choice. It is Tuesday. Oh, and that's the other thing. I realized this morning as I was laying in bed, my insomnia was really bad, that I have to take my kids to my mother's on Friday evening, and it is 51 miles one way. So I'm gonna lose a big chunk of Friday evening. So I really do want to be done writing new stuff by Thursday. So I definitely need to get as much of chapter 27 done as I can, and then adhere to that plan I had yesterday of making, or on Sunday, of making Wednesday just an editing day where I just edit through all the existing chapters that I haven't reviewed yet, and then Thursday write the denouement. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna get started on my day. I'm gonna take some Excedrin because I have the worst headache. My headache is so bad, and I know what it is. It's tension headaches, and I'm just waking up with them probably 4 or 5 times a week, and most of the time within like 2 hours they go away. So I know it is how I'm sleeping, and specifically I am like positive it's my pillow. It is basically flat. There's nothing to it. And so my head hurt so bad when I woke up this morning. It was like 5 a.m. The pain woke me up, and I like got up and I like laid in the recliner, and that didn't help. And anyway, that I like went online and I researched cervical pillows, and I spent $150 on a special pillow because I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired of waking up, and it's been like this for months. That's how bad it is this morning. Why did I say all that? I don't remember. Oh, I also have to do some video editing today too. Okay, all right, enough crying. Let's get after it and just hope for, I cut myself off. That's so funny. A better day today than yesterday. Once again, contending with the sun. Good morning, y'all. I'm gonna make this really quick. It is now Wednesday morning, and yesterday was not a great writing day, I fear, which is a problem because I'm running out of days to loaf. But yeah, I got home yesterday, and I don't know, I was once again feeling really, really tired, and not having a lot of energy for doing much of anything, really, not just writing. So during the day, I didn't really get a whole ton done. I looked at the end of I'm losing track of the chapter numbers, 25, and wrote like 50 words, but I was still having trouble figuring out how I wanted to end it. And because I didn't want to move on and start bullet pointing chapter 26 until I've ended chapter 25, I didn't. anyway. So then I got home and I got changed and my partner wasn't home yet. And I just sort of laid in the recliner and piddle farted around. I was kind of dozing. I was kind of on my phone. I wasn't doing much of anything. I had the baseball game on in the background. And my partner came home. He laid down because he's got something going on at work that's really wearing him out lately too. And then he made dinner and then he wanted to hang out. And so we hung out together and we watched some Dropout. But then by the time that was done, it was like 9 or close to 9:30. And I hadn't really done much with the draft. So I ended up writing for 2 hours. I finished up at 11:30 and I got just over 1,000 words, I want to say. I did finally finish chapter 25 and I didn't end up bullet pointing it out because it just sort of started coming together in my head as I was editing through the first part of chapter 26. So I edited through that and then started adding to it. And so now I need, like, realistically, probably between 500 and 800 more words. I would love to get like 1,000 more words just because I am concerned about my word count. It's so funny to be worried about not having enough words, but it is what it is. I know kind of how there's 2 topics left that I want to cover. Well, 1.5, and I know how to like get into it, and I know how to end the chapter, which obviously is important. I just feel like I talked about this already, but anyway, deja vu. And then I need to write the first part of chapter 27, right? Is that right? I think. I did briefly consider scrapping my plans for chapter 27 and just copying the original chapter 27 in verbatim and just doing a quick edit pass. But I thought about it some more. I mean, and that was appealing because it would save me time, purely. But I gave it some more thought and I realized that I really should do this rewrite of chapter 27, or like it's basically a new scene that I'm adding and then trimming down the scene that made up the bulk of chapter 27, the original. I just think it fits more with this new version and with the new like integration of the B plot. I think I just need it. It does feel a little silly goofy, so I need to really make sure that I'm not being ridiculous by including it, but I think it's important. I want that to be like 1,700, close to 2,000 words, and then I can edit through the original version of chapter 27, trim it down so that it's not as lengthy, but still hits all the same points. This is the dark night of the soul, so I'm really like hitting like Arceli's like pain points as hard as I can, and then that'll be it. And then I can copy in the 3 climax chapters. For today, I realistically would just like to finish 26 and 27, and then maybe tomorrow I'll make my editing day, and Friday will just have to be the denouement chapter. I mean, and if I get up on Saturday morning, which will be the 1st, and I have to finish it on Saturday morning, it is what it is. I am gonna go get started on my work day, and hopefully I will talk with you tonight. I know I've been really bad about vlogging, but I'm just so I'm so tired, and I don't know why lately. Well, I do know why. It's because I've been pushing so hard, and I've also been doing a lot of like mentally taxing tasks here at work. I'm normally not talking to this many people. It's just a culmination of it being, I'm going through an interview process to hire somebody. It's my month-end closeout, which is my busiest time of my working month every month, and trying to do this huge, enormous push for the end of the draft. And so I know why I'm tired. I just don't know why I'm not feeling more motivated to push through the tiredness, knowing that it'll be over in a couple of days. Like, I don't know. So hopefully I get over that hurdle today and tomorrow and Friday. I mean, I know I mentioned yesterday that Friday is going to be tough because I have to drive my kids to my mom's, which means I probably won't be back at home until close to 9. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's all. I'm gonna get my workday started, and just keep praying for me, y'all, in retrospect, because you'll be seeing this. Time travel. Okay, so for the last 2 days, I've had this song stuck in my head, but I could only remember like 2 lines from it, and the lines were, I'm in a hurry to get things done, and then later, but I'm in a hurry and I don't know why. So I looked it up this morning as I was getting ready, and tell me why this song is like my type A personality ass anthem. Because it goes, I'm in a hurry to get things done. I rush and rush till life's no fun. All I have to do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and I don't know why. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's me. Although I do know why I'm in a hurry right now, because I do have a deadline that is in 2 days. So that's why I'm in a hurry at the moment. But I do have some updates on that. Last night, I once again did not write nearly as much as I wanted to. I think my plan was to finish chapter 26 and then also like write in totality chapter 27, or at least the first half, and then marry it to the second half, which is already written. And I didn't do that. I finished chapter 26 and I wrote the opening to chapter 27, and then I ran out of steam. I did copy in the second half of chapter 27, so it looks like I wrote 3,000 words, but I didn't. I really didn't. I wrote like maybe 1,500, maybe. Here's the thing though. Here's the actual thing. I am 1,000% sure that this deadline is not a problem anymore. I'm basically done. I have the rest of chapter 27 and chapter 31. And that's it. And then an editing pass, mostly for the beginning of chapter 28, just because the context of how we arrive in that moment might change a little bit, but everything like in the middle of those chapters and how they end and everything all the way up through the end of the climax, identical. I really don't think I need to change that much. I'll read through them, of course, and do an editing pass like I'm going to do for the rest of the chapters, but I just don't think that it's going to take a ton of effort. I just don't think so. I've been very, very, very diligent about making sure that everything lines up with it. And that's it. I have half of it, one chapter, and then the denouement chapter to write, and that's it. And it's Thursday, and I don't have to turn it in until Saturday. Now, yes, tomorrow I do have obligations in the evening that will keep me out of the house until probably close to 9 o'clock. But again, I'm out of gas. I'm not worried about it anymore. I'm just not. And I'm hoping that helps with finishing chapters 27 and 31. But I reached a sense of peace last night where I just know that it's going to get done. Like if I still had 5 more chapters, like if I didn't have the climax locked and loaded, I would be freaking out. But I have it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Good morning, by the way. It is Thursday morning. Did I say that already? And while I didn't write a ton of new words last night, I was thinking about it afterwards, and I am really pretty pleased with how chapter 26 turned out. I was a little bit worried about it. In the original draft, there were just some things in it that I was worried. I'm not going to get into it, but there was just some things about it that I was like, oh, I don't know that this is going to pass a bullshit detector. Like I need to rethink this in later drafts. So I did do some rethinking, and I took the best parts of it and I just I reshaped it so that I think it's a little better, and it gives some background on Arceli's grandmother, who she has a very contentious relationship, and it sort of explains a lot about why there is tension from the grandmother's side. And I would just like, oh yes, this is what writing is all about, is finding those pieces and putting them in and making it all make sense. And so I'm happy with it. So yeah, that I have like 1,500 words to write for this one scene coming up. It's brand new. It didn't even exist in draft 1. That's how brand new it is. There might be a little bit of extra effort associated with drafting it, which is fine. And then I just need to kind of marry it to the second scene of the chapter, which again, I don't anticipate being a problem. Just need to rewrite the beginning a little bit and probably rewrite the ending a little bit. But that's basically it. So yeah, so that's my kind of plan for today, is to get that scene written, massage it and marry it into the second scene, and then start my edit passes of everything from the fight scene all the way up through the climax. And then tomorrow, hopefully do the denouement. I do need to do a little bit of rethinking of the denouement. That's why I'm rewriting the chapter, because it's just, that part is changing significantly, I would say. And I know the very last snapshot, the very last scene with Arceli, like the very last paragraphs, how those are going to go before the end, or to be continued and into the epilogue or whatever. but everything before that is just sort of nebulous and vague. So I do need to kind of bullet point that out, I think. But again, I'm just no longer worried. I just know that I'm going to be up until midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, however long it takes on Friday night to finish it. I just do. I just know that. I don't know. I feel good. And it's nice to feel good for a change. Also, another component of this is that I am also just equally confident that I am going to come up a little bit under my word count target, which again is fine. I know last week, and still a little bit this week, I was worried about how the second half is going to be a little bit shorter than the first half of the book. But in draft 1, the second half ended up being 1,600 words longer than the first half. So like, if I end up being 1,600 words shorter this time, is that really the end of the world? I mean, it's like what, 1% of the book? Like I think a 1% margin of error with hitting the midpoint and the ending is acceptable. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So, and I do think it'll probably be between 1,500 and 2,000 words that I'm short from the revised target of 96,000. So I'm looking at maybe like 94,000 and change. We'll see. We'll see how long the denouement is. In the original version, in the original draft 1, the denouement was almost 4,000 words. I don't think it'll be that long this time. That's the other thing, is like, I'm being very, very, I'm just being less wordy this time because I'm exploring less. I know what I need to hit. I know which parts are important. And so I'm cutting words as I go, just naturally. Anyway, so that is your Thursday morning update. I'm going to go get in and get my day started at work. But yeah, like I have a sense of peace about this whole thing. Now, if I get like hit by a bus tonight, we'll know that fate was not happy to be tempted like that. So, and then I just tempted it again. I'm gonna go before I get myself in any more trouble. Hey y'all, it is now Thursday evening at about 9:30, and I have been at it, sort of, because here's the thing. I sat down about 2 hours ago to start finishing up chapter 27. Like, I just had that one like brand new scene to write that I was going to merge or lead into a scene that I had already written, that whole thing. However, I have good news and bad news, and I'm not sure which is which really, because they're both good and bad in their own way. Unfortunately, I have come to the realization that the scene that I was going to write is just too stupid. And I have known that for many, many moons, at least for a year, because I ended up scrapping it from my original outline when I arrived at this moment in draft 1. And to be honest, I also, like, the other part of it was like, it just transpired that plot was not as important as I thought it would be when I outlined throughout the course of actually drafting draft 1. It just felt irrelevant and, again, stupid. But because that B plot is now more important and I feel better integrated, and it should make an appearance in this portion of the book, which is the Dark Night of the Soul, I thought I would reintroduce this scene. However, as I am getting into the writing of it, I have realized that the central conceit is just too stupid. I'm just having a really hard time suspending my own disbelief that the main character would be this stupid, to think that what she is about to attempt would have any sort of chance of success. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. I can't really explain why without getting into spoilers. Just trust me that I have attempted to write this scene about 3 different ways this evening, and there's no way that it doesn't come across as just like, girl, what the fuck are you thinking? That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Which, listen, in A Dark Night of the Soul is not necessarily out of place, but it's not stupid like she's being reckless, and it's not stupid like she's being blinded by some emotion. It's just dumb. She's just being dumb. Like, again, it's hard to explain this without getting into the circumstances, which I don't want to do for spoiler reasons, but it's not either of those two things. And so I'm having just a real hard time justifying it, and a hard time writing it, because I don't even believe it myself. Like, anyway. So I did touch a little bit on the B plot in a previous scene in the previous chapter, chapter 26. See, now that I'm just talking it out loud, what I was going to do was I was just going to go back to my original chapter 27 and just copy it all in and then do a light edit, as I was going to do with the next 3 chapters anyway. But I really do feel like I need a chapter focused on the B plot. I just don't know how to do it without making my main character seem like she has absolutely no common sense, which she does. Again, that's not a criticism, or that's not like a bad thing to have in a character in this moment, but she does. She would be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing this idea to fruition, just for myriad reasons. And so, but I'm sitting here now and I'm just like, I feel like I do need something there that touches on the B plot, because the original chapter version of this chapter does reiterate or iterate on where Arcelia is at in this dark moment, where she is just no longer feeling like she has a place. Stuff, again, not getting into it for spoilers, but like it does feed into that like dark feeling that she is experiencing, but in such a way that is really not important to the plot and is not in the direct conversation with her emotional arc. It comes up at the beginning, but not really since. And so I'm having, I don't know. I'm wondering if it would be out of place now in this new version of the draft, and so which suggests that I should replace it entirely with a B plot related scene. I just don't have another idea for one other than that one that got scrapped for just plausible deniability reasons. So I was going to say that the good news is that I can just copy in a new chapter and move on. But now I'm not so certain, which means it's double bad news because it's 9:30 and I have made almost no progress on this chapter whatsoever. And I still do have a denouement to write tomorrow. So I really do need to write this chapter tonight. Also, I'm tired. It's month-end close. That's what I'm grappling with at the moment. I still haven't edited through anything since chapter 22. Chapter 21? I don't know. A while. I think I did edit through chapter 21, actually. Did I? I think I did. All right, well, I guess thanks for being a sounding board. I really wish you were a person right now that could tell me what to do with this moment, but time travel. I'll talk to y'all later.
How much longer do I have to wait? I'm not getting any stronger. I'm losing my faith, and I could be wrong, but I swear it's true. Yeah, even if the world gives up on us, I won't give up on you.
I have more good news and more bad news. The good news, of course, is that I figured it out. I got the initial seed of the idea like 30 seconds after I turned off the camera. I'll show you my brainstorming clip. And then it took me like another half hour to kind of work out precisely how I wanted to do it. It is taken from a plot point and series of scenes that I wrote for draft 2 and then ended up scrapping for draft 3 because I just felt like they were taking too much oxygen from the main plot in draft 2. In draft 2, these scenes appeared like right after the midpoint. Anyway, it just felt like the main character was focusing too much on, like, the story was focusing too much on the B plot, not enough on the A plot. Anyway, there were a lot of reasons why I scrapped draft 2, but that was a big part of it. Anyway, so now I'm thinking about repurposing the plot point, but the bad news is that there's not a lot of usable, like, words. There will be some that I can take from draft 2, but I need to hit a different key point with this scene, and I also need to condense it down to just a single scene. This is the Dark Night of the Soul, so unlike where these scenes and this moment sat in draft 2 right after the midpoint, this serves a completely different narrative and like emotional purpose. And so that means that I'm going to have to basically rewrite the whole thing. And it is now just after 10 o'clock. I'm out of time. There's really nothing left for me to do but write it. It's time to lock in. I just have to lock in. There's nothing else for it, because I have to spend tomorrow, what time I have tomorrow, doing the denouement, and I still have to edit through all these chapters. So, which I could put off until Saturday morning, because technically I told Brielle August 1st, and so I assume that anytime on August 1st I can send it to her. Worst case scenario, I'm doing all my edit passes for these last 9 chapters on Saturday morning. I'd really like to get them done tomorrow, but I also have to write the denouement still. So also bad news is that the second part of chapter 27 that I was going to do is now being completely deleted. So I had to take those 2,500 words out. It wasn't that many. It was 1,900 words out. So I'm back up to, I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of ground. This scene could end up being really long, which would be great for the word count, but not great for how much work I'm going to have to put in to get it done. I just have to keep reminding myself that I'm done in 2 days. So if I can push myself for 2 more days, I can finally relax. I guess it's lock-in time.
Hello again from the car. I have updates for you. I wrote last night until about midnight, and I did actually finish the whole chapter. All of chapter 27 is done. There was a point where I wanted to stop and just leave it because I was having kind of a hard time thinking of a conclusion to the scene. What else is new? But I just felt really strongly that I should not leave it for today. I should just go ahead and push through and get it done. And I did. The only downside is the way that I did conclude the scene. While I do think it makes sense for this moment, which is the dark night of the soul, essentially, it does unfortunately necessitate some significant rewrites to the beginning of chapter 28. Chapter 28 is the first of the climax chapters, which I had hoped to just leave almost verbatim. And it's with the way that I concluded chapter 27, it just kind of changes Arceli's feelings and perspective on a certain person and situation. And it needs to be addressed because that person and situation comes up in the very next chapter. And so she needs to confront that immediately. And then we can get into the meat of the climax itself, or the actual forward moving plot stuff. So like I said, I was up until about midnight finishing that. Because I did technically finish the chapter, I did the thing I have been waiting to do until this moment, which was copy in the next 3 chapters and just watch my word count go tick, 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 tick in the course of 30 seconds. And it's funny, it's almost exactly 10,000 words. I went from needing almost 16,000 words in one day to just needing 6,000 words in one day, which is a lot more doable. So I feel really, really good about that. And then my insomnia was really bad this morning. I woke up at 5:30, which, as you know, is not my favorite time of the day. My alarm is set for 7, but I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to go back to sleep because my partner's alarm goes off at 6:15. And anyway, so I just got up and I decided to start working on the rewrites for chapter 28, or at least that first section. And I got through a decent chunk of it. I wasn't able to completely get to the point where I could stop doing major rewrites of the paragraphs and the scenes and the context and things, but I got pretty close. And I'm not totally satisfied with what I did come up yet. It just still needs a little bit more massaging to make the two totally compatible with each other, the two versions and the 2 parts. But I got pretty close. I netted 300 new words, and yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive. I can't believe today is the day before my deadline and I still have to edit 9 chapters and write a brand new chapter. And I'm not freaking out, but I'm not. I have absolute confidence that I'm going to get this done. Why? I don't know. I truly do not know, but I just do. I just know that something about this like push to the end, just, I don't know. I've done it before and I'm going to do it again. And I just have no concerns except for like, you know, something completely unexpected happening that'll completely take me out of writing, in which case I'll email Brielle and be like, I got hit by a car. What do you want me to do? I've got to stop tempting fate like that. It's Friday morning. I finished most of my time-sensitive tasks yesterday for the end of the month. Please clap. I know I certainly was proud, which means that I don't have quite as busy or mentally strenuous a day ahead of me. I do need to call all the people I decided not to hire and tell them thank you but no, which I have been dreading doing since the start of this process. I've hired 2 people and I had to make 1 phone call where I said no to someone, and I hated it so much that I've just been dreading it. Like, I hope I get nothing but voicemails all day today. So I have that to do on my plate. But apart from that, I'm really hoping to do some editing of the chapters. I would like to start with finishing the rewrites for chapter 28. I don't think there's that much more that needs to be like completely rewritten or reworked. I think I can take the material and just kind of zhuzh it a little bit to make it work. I hope. And then I would like to go back to chapter 21, 22. I think 22. I think I edited chapter 21. I don't remember. And start my edit passes of each chapter, because I just feel really like so much context has changed and so much has been borrowed and then edited and then changed and then tweaked and then massaged and zhuzhed or whatever words I've been using, that I'm not totally prepared to write the denouement until I've read through everything and done my edit pass, and I feel really, really confident about the order of operations of everything. So the denouement will be the very, 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 very last thing that I write for this draft, which, makes sense. Something I thought about last night is how grateful I was for draft 2, even though I didn't finish it, and even though at the time it felt like I had just wasted 6 months on it, because I was able to take an idea that arose from draft 2 and that I wrote for draft 2 and repurpose it for draft 3. Again, like, the context is totally different, and I was really only able to borrow like 500 to 700 words from the original scene. Like, it wasn't really that much, but the idea itself and the sort of general conceit around it, I was able to take because it existed already in draft 2. And so it was just sort of an important lesson that, as the great philosopher Taylor Swift once said, time's never lost when perspective is earned. I got a great boost from a draft I thought was useless, essentially, at least in this part of the book. And it almost makes me wish I had just gone ahead and finished the draft, but oh well. It's been a really, really interesting experience. At this time last week, I was completely freaking out because I hadn't even written the climax, or I hadn't even written the fight scene, and there was still so much more that I needed to do for this Dark Night of the Soul that was changing. And I was like thinking about the number 32,000 words that I still needed to write in 1 week, and like going, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to need at least another week, and I can't do that. I can't ask for another extension. And to go from that 1 week ago to feeling like, yes, there is still plenty of work to do. Like, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a long ass day, and I'm probably going to not be getting in bed until like 2 a.m. But I know myself well enough to know that I can do that, and that I am willing to do that, and that I actually do some of my best work in these moments. Like, you may recall from when I finished the first draft, I finished it like at 2 a.m. after writing literally all day. And I think it was another week where I wrote like something like 13,000 words in a week or something, just trying to meet a deadline. That one was self-imposed, at least. And then the very last thing that I wrote was epilogue, which to this day is like my favorite thing that I've written for this book, bar none. So I do feel like when this pressure is on, I pull out some of my best work. At least I hope. I could hand this in and get feedback back that is like, wow, the first part of this book was really strong and then it really fell off towards the end. I don't know. That's the other thing is, as I have been getting closer to finishing and my deadline, I have just been like, I don't even care what the feedback is anymore. I don't care if they come back and tell me that I need to rewrite the whole book again from scratch. I mean, I would care eventually, but I don't care right now. I want to be done with this draft, and I want to be told from someone else whether or not it's even good. I guess that's kind of like the counterbalance to the fear is that, yes, on the one hand, it would suck horribly to work on a book for more than 2 years now and be told that you still have probably 2 more years left of work on it, or that it's just got too much wrong with it, that you would just have to do so much more work on it. But the other side of that is it would just be it would be kind of a relief to have something concrete to work from, because I'm just so stuck in the weeds, and I've been so absorbed by this project for 2 years that I truly can I can't tell anymore if it's good. I just can't. I think it's certainly better from where it started, as all drafts improve upon the previous iteration. I know that it's better than, like, if I had handed in the draft one version of this for a critique, I would be completely confident that I would get feedback like, oh yeah, you need to do 2 or 3 more years of work on this. I'm just really looking forward to hearing what other people have to say about the plot, about the world, about the magic, about the plot, 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 about the plot. And even if it is negative, like, yeah, I see what you're going for, but these are things that I didn't like about it. These are reasons why I don't think it would work. At least I would have a place to start from, because right now I am just starting from my own regurgitated like thoughts and feelings. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Anyway, okay, so I've been yapping now for far too long. I got to work a little bit early and then I yapped. So I'm gonna go inside. I am going to get my day started, and I am going to attempt to get some chapters edited while I can, like in the creases today. Not ideal, but again, needs must. So, oh yeah, and then just as a reminder, tonight I do have to take my kids to my mother's, which usually takes about 2.5 hours to 3 hours round trip, because she lives about an hour away, and it's also like rush hour traffic through the worst part of town. Anyway, I won't be getting back and settling in until like probably like 9 p.m. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Ooh, the sun just came out. It's time to go inside.
Hey y'all. It is now Saturday, August 1st, the day I am due to hand over my manuscript for critique. And unfortunately, I have a little tiny confession to make. As the great video game philosopher once said, overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. And last night, she got me. Because as I settled in to review the 3 climax chapters that it had been all along my intention to copy them in from draft 1 verbatim, I very quickly realized that one of them, the very next chapter, chapter 28, needed to be completely rewritten. Like, from scratch. Yeah, I think I mentioned it yesterday morning that the ending of chapter 27, just the way that it transpired, kind of changed Arceli's feelings on certain things. And while I think it makes sense and it's actually appropriate for this moment of the book, and even I would say makes more sense than the original version, it did impact the very next chapter and how she would approach it and her attitude towards things. I thought that I could just sort of massage the two together and kind of blend them, and so that they would look like they were cohesive, but they were just too far apart. In one version, she is kind of regretful about her own actions, and while she does have some anger towards certain people and certain events, she isn't fully committed to what she has done either. And so she's kind of in this like wishy-washy space where she wants to go and do something, but she feels like she's kind of backed herself into a corner and can't. And so when the opportunity arrives that she can go and do that thing, she is like excited, but trying not to seem too excited kind of thing. In the new version, she's just mad. There's no excitement, there's no regret. It's just anger. And those two versions were just too far apart to take anything from the original chapter 28 and make it usable. That's not true. There were some paragraphs that I did take, but they were literally paragraphs rather than passages. Yeah, I got back at about almost 9 o'clock last night. I sat down and I did one sprint with Donna, which helped me get into the mindset, but it was pretty quickly after that that I realized I had an extra chapter I needed to write, a very long chapter too. This is like the moment right before the climax, so, or like this is like the lead up, like the very, very last moment before the climax. And so it a lot of feelings and obviously, and I banged my head against it relentlessly until about 1:30 in the morning, at which point the most enormous cockroach I have ever seen in my life crawled in from under my back door and started running up the wall, and I had to go get my partner out of bed to help me slay it because I'm not joking, that thing was enormous. It was Godzilla-sized cockroach. It was horrible. And after that, I just decided to go to bed without really having written anything in the chapter. What I did do, however, and what has saved my ass, is I kind of bullet pointed out the talking points. I've done this with a couple of chapters in the past where I know I need to hit certain talking points and certain reveals, and I just put them in a list, and then I started like just plug and playing, seeing which order was the best way and how to get all the information out in a way that was natural, in a way that was progressing the story and like the character dynamics and the plot and the B plot and all of that. So I put that list together and I had that all together so that when I got up this morning, I could just start going off the list and start actually drafting the chapter, which is exactly what I have been doing for the last almost 3 hours. I just finished chapter 28. I think I'm happy with it. I haven't edited through it yet. I'm much happier with Arceli's approach for sure. Like I said, I didn't feel like the original approach where she was sort of wishy-washy. It just wasn't strong enough. And this just feels a lot more appropriate for the Dark Knight moment, and also like just her personality in general. She's not a wishy-washy person by any means, so her like leaning into that anger and all of that, I just feel like it works better in that way. And also I had completely forgotten over the last like month or so, as I was like looking towards this climax, that I was actually changing a certain thing and intending to include it in this chapter, which is sort of going to be a plot, like a B plot for book 2. And I had completely forgotten about that. And I was going to just proceed without it up until I did this rewrite. So I'm glad that I, had a brainwave and remembered to include it. But yeah, so I feel good about the work that I did. I am really bummed that I was not able to finish the book last night as I had intended, but it is what it is. It is just after 12:30 in the afternoon, and I've still got hours ahead of me to do the rest of the work, which is editing the climax chapters and then writing the denouement and editing that. I don't think it'll take very long. I hope it doesn't take very long. Now I'm like gun shy to say that because of what just happened. But what I'm going to do next is edit through chapter 28 and then edit through the 2 chapters that I really do hope and intend not to change too much. I just have to make sure that the reveals haven't already been revealed, like things like that, like that I haven't already revealed them, or like that the context all makes sense still. I'm pretty sure it does. And then like the chapter 30 is just a fight. And so nothing about that needs to change at all. So yeah, so it's really just making sure chapter 29, the reveals portion, still makes sense. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to eat my lunch, which just arrived, and then I'm going to edit through those 3 chapters, and then I'm going to settle in and write the denouement. I do think I need to do another bullet point list because I reread over the original chapter, the original denouement chapter in draft 1 was almost 4,000 words, or over 4,000 words. I think it was excessively long. I'm going to whittle that down and make sure that it like we're not. There was a section where they are debriefing their boss on the fight in the climax, and it's just like, we don't need to do that on page. Come on. We literally saw it with our eyes. We don't need to, anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I'm disappointed in myself for not thinking of that, thinking that the changes were going to be that significant in chapter 28, but live and learn. Like I said, I can hand it in at any time today. And so I'm hoping to get these next edit passes done really, really quickly. I mean, like I edited like 7 chapters yesterday. So like, I know that like I was going through them really, really quickly and I was in a really good flow. So I think I can edit these 3 chapters probably in an hour and a half, and then hopefully take maybe 3 hours, hopefully less though, but I can see it taking 3 hours to finish the denouement chapter and edit that through. And then I'm done. Then I am done. So that's the update. A little bit of a disappointment, but as true with draft 1 as well, like I went just a hair over my deadline as well. Like it was like 2:00 in the morning the next day that I was over my deadline. And that was a self-imposed deadline. I'm not going to, I'm definitely handing it in today as intended, but just a little bit later in the day. Anyway, so I'm not going to waste too much more time. I am just going to get back to it actually I'm going to eat. And then I'm going to get back to it. But yeah, that's the update. I'm not perfect, so sue me.
Also, this is going to come across so pathetic to you, I know, but like part of my motivation for blitzing through this last little bit is I want to play Star Rail so bad. I have barely played over the last couple of weeks, and I want to play so bad. I want to play my game. Where?
You are for everything. I'm taking my time thinking, just so I'm sure what we do. 'Cause I don't wanna take it back. We got something that can last. We can mess it up if we keep moving too fast. Oh.
You say you're the only one for me, yeah. So if you love me, then tell me how much longer do I have to wait? I'm not getting any stronger. I'm losing my faith, and I could be wrong, but I swear it's true. Yeah, even if the world gives up on us, I won't give up on you.
It's done. It took me the better part of the day, of course. I really have not been doing anything else. It's done. It's done. The edit for chapter 29 ended up being a little bit more intensive than I thought. It didn't need a big rewrite like chapter 28 did, but there were quite a few sections that needed to be tweaked to account for updated context and just changes that have, arisen over the course of the draft. And then chapter 30, the fight scene, I didn't really change too much of either. That went well. Chapter 31 was a lot easier than I anticipated. I thought I was gonna have to bullet point it out, but really I didn't, because it's just, I already knew the talking points I kind of wanted to hit. And I was able to copy a little bit from draft 1, maybe like 700 words, maybe a little more, maybe like 1,000. I put that together. I love this version of the denouement chapter way more than the draft 1 version. In the draft 1 version, it sort of feels like, again, Arceli is lacking agency, and like everything she attempts to take, everything she attempts to take for herself is kind of subverted by the powers that be. This feels a lot more like a win for her. One thing that kind of arose over these last couple of chapters is the question of whether my B plot is really what I thought it was. Again, the B plot. But there was a really emotional moment. Well, chapter 28, the one that was rewritten, was a really emotional scene. Oh my gosh, my battery is dying again. You may have to be moved. Sorry for the lighting situation. I can't move or you will be blinded by the window, but this is where I can plug you in. So anyway, chapter 28 was a really emotional scene between the main character, Arceli, and the person who was like her partner or her handler at this secret government agency. I was worried with the changes that I made from draft 1 to draft 2 to draft 3 that scene wouldn't hit in quite the same way that I had always intended, just because of the handler character. His name is Max. Some of the actions he has taken, some of the things the tweaks I made with him with respect to the plot, I was just worried that it wasn't going to hit as hard, and I think that it did. At least I hope. The stakes, I feel, were higher in this version, just barely, but definitely noticeable. And yeah, just overall, it is far and away an improvement, of course. I mean, I would hope it's draft 3, but yeah, it feels really good. I feel like it's in a really good spot. Now, of course, I could get feedback back that it's terrible. I am still super duper concerned about that middle section, because now that I'm so far away from the middle, I feel like it feels out of place. So maybe in the interim, while I am waiting for feedback, I will start thinking of how I'm going to fix that middle section again. Well, we'll see though. I may be just overthinking it, which wouldn't surprise me. It's done. I ended up at 93,700 and change words, so I didn't quite make it to 94,000, so I am short for my midpoint estimate of 96,000 by about 2,300 words. So there is a little bit of imbalance there, but again, I can't bring myself to be too worried about that. Most of the chapters in the second half, which I thought were going to be very long, were shorter. And that's probably because I am just being more diligent about writing a tight draft, as opposed to like an exploratory draft, which normally draft 1 is, and certainly draft 2 was. Yeah, so I shaved off 12,000 words from draft 1. So I think that's pretty good. And and I mentioned the B plot earlier, but the actual like intended B plot, I also feel like came out really, really strong at the end. And in reflection, I feel like it was carried through pretty consistently, at least definitely from the midpoint. Now I'll have to go back and see if I mention it more than a couple of times in the first half of the book. But anyway, it's done. I have successfully completed this crunch challenge. Not really even a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge, but it was less of a challenge and more of a necessity kind of thing. I wrote, 58,000 words in a month. Not even a month. I think it was 25 days, because I didn't write that first week of July either. I've written over 5,000 words today. I don't even know how many I wrote yesterday. I didn't write anything yesterday. Don't listen to me. It's done. And now, for the first time in more than 2 years, Seekers of Empyrean is not my current work in progress. If I think about that too hard, I might cry. I love this book so much. And I'm really, really excited and hopeful that you guys get to read it someday. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I don't care. Leave me any emoji you want. I am an emotional husk right now. In my next video, I have to look at my schedule. In my next video, I will be introducing for you guys my new work in progress, Daughters of Necessity. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.
How much longer do I